evening. Welcome to the League of Women Voters Forum for the candidates for Wisconsin Rapids School Board. 4 candidates are running for 3 seats on the April 3rd general election ballot. I'm Karen Schill. I will be moderating for this evening. Thank you all for joining us here in the Wisconsin Rapids Community Media Studio and those of you watching us at home. The League thanks the candidates for their willingness to both run for public office and for your presence tonight. The League of Women Voters is nonpartisan and does not support nor propose any candidate or political party. We welcome questions from our viewing audience at home. Phone those questions into the studio audience at 715-423-0441. Our 4 candidates, again, that are running for 3 spots on the Wisconsin Rapids School Board are John Benbow Jr., Katie Bielski-Medina, Troy Bier, and Larry Davis. Written questions and phoned-in questions should be directed to the office and not to a particular candidate. Only questions pertaining to issues, not personalities, shall be asked. And I just want to remind people in the audience that we have question cards if you would like them. And we do screen questions for clarity, directness, and to avoid duplication. Our candidates will offer 2-minute opening statements, 2-minute closing statements, and then have an opportunity to respond to each question for 2 minutes. Earlier we drew for order of speaking, and we will begin with our opening statement, first with Troy Bier.
I want to start tonight by thanking the League of Women Voters for hosting tonight's forum, as well as all the forums coming up this week. I also want to thank the candidates up here tonight. And I want to just say that my reason to run is not because of ill will or any distaste for any one of them. I'm just running because I believe I would bring value to the board with my perspective. I'm running for the board because I believe that a strong public school district is essential to not only the students, but also to the community as a whole. To me, the most important part is to ensure that students have the tools that they need to be successful. When these tools are present, I believe that this allows for success, not only in the classroom, but in all aspects of life. If elected, I would strive to promote further accountability and greater transparency on the board. Our area deserves a Board of Education that looks out for the best interests of the students and that always welcomes transparency and honesty in the decision-making process. The ultimate goal is to deliver a standard of education that allows for the students and the community to succeed. I look forward to the conversations we're going to have tonight in terms of addressing education policy, and I look forward to how we can discuss to strengthen our schools in our area. I truly believe that when we work together, we can accomplish more. Now, going forward tonight, I hope that I can earn your support, because I will always put students first.
Thank you. Larry Davis.
Thank you again to the League for sponsoring this forum. It's best practice in our district when teachers start a class to set out what they intend to accomplish in the class. What I intend to accomplish tonight is that I hope you will know me better by the end of the evening. I hope that at the end of the evening you'll say that I have turned on my mic. I hope that you will say that I have provided complete transparency. I also might have to say in the beginning, now that the mic is on, that there isn't really a poor candidate here. I know John and Katie very well, and everything I've heard about Troy has been good. So I think you have a good choice of candidates. I'm a hometown guy here in Wisconsin Rapids. I've only been away from Rapids for college and for some educational experience. The rest of the time I've been here. I was in the first graduating class at Meade Elementary School, and it was there that I lost my father to injuries that he sustained in World War II. I remember talking to the students about respecting the American flag. I also graduated from Lincoln High School. Both of my kids were in the school district, got a good education. They're both successful. I was able to compete in an Eastern private college without any trouble from my educational experience here in the Rapids. So we have good schools, and I'm appreciative of that.
Thank you. John Benbow Jr.
Good evening. Yes, I'd also like to thank the community, first of all, Wisconsin Rapids Community Media for fixing their problem and getting us on the air, and also to thank the League of Women Voters for this opportunity. I'm a lifelong resident of Wisconsin Rapids, born in Rapids, graduated from Lincoln, my wife graduated from Lincoln, and both of my children have graduated from Lincoln. Part of the getting on the school board was to continue the fight for the children of the district and give back to the district that I so much have been a part of all my life. Matter of fact, the shirt I have on tonight was from the Wolf Den, which is supported by DECA in Lincoln High School. So there's a lot of good opportunities in our district. I advocate for public education, and I believe that public education is key and is still the first choice of education in the state of Wisconsin. I continue to fight for the school district, the same passion and dedication that I started this whole journey 9 years ago when I decided to run for the school board the first time. I enjoy the challenge of working with the different people and the different members of the board, and I feel we have a good working board, and we've accomplished a lot of good things over the past 9 years, and I consider it a privilege to serve my community as a school board member. Thank you.
Thank you. Katie Bielski-Medina.
Hi, thank you for having me here tonight. Thank you to everybody who put their effort in to get this, give us this opportunity to speak tonight. I am also a lifetime resident of Wisconsin Rapids. I was born here in Wisconsin Rapids, graduated from Lincoln High School. My husband and I are very proud members of the Wisconsin Rapids community, very active in our community, and I'm a very strong advocate of education. I've been an adjunct instructor at Mid-State Technical College for the last 28 years, and I just realized there especially how much our education for our K-12 students is. And I'm hopeful that we can continue to offer our students the best. We have a good reputation in the state of Wisconsin for good education. Recently, we've had a few setbacks as far as being able to fund a lot of the things that we would like to be able to fund. In my last 10 years here on the board, we've seen a lot of changes, and not all of them good, but we've worked hard to make sure that our schools are still successful, and they have been successful, and we could make them more successful if we got more cooperation from government and some of the programs that we're being required to do. But I think that we have a very, very strong educational system in this state, and especially in this city. Very proud of what we're able to do, and I hope that we can continue to in the future to work to make that even better. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, candidates. Our first question will be posed to Larry Davis first. There is a teacher shortage statewide. What do you suggest WRPS do to attract and retain highly qualified educators?
There was a time about when Act 10 was enacted, and we had a big change at Madison when we used to have 50 or 100 candidates for those positions that were like social studies teachers, English teachers, elementary teachers. That's not true anymore. It's literally a third of that, and when we go out and look for candidates. So something has changed since that happened, and I don't think it's constructive for the kids in Wisconsin. Each year we take last year's budget and we get a cost of living increase perhaps, and we may get a little bit more per student to run our district. But in the end, we have to cut. We've been cutting every year because the money isn't there. It's not coming from the state. And what this means is we have larger classes. We have teacher shortages in certain areas like special ed. And the teachers are able to, at the last minute, say goodbye. I think I get more money somewhere else. So how do you change that? Teaching is really a ministry, in my opinion. And you either want to be a teacher, or you'll be looking for something else. But in order to get good candidates, I think first of all we have to respect them, respect their work, and compensate them fairly. Ding-a-ding. I won't do that again.
Thank you. John Benbow Jr.
As far as, I would say Wisconsin Rapids has been fortunate, the fact that we do have a good reputation, and we've had teachers stay in our district for a long time. Part of the recruitment process is, quite frankly, salary and benefits, and in today's society with the people being a little more flexible, and the millennials, as far as they don't have the same values as far as retirement, because they don't figure retirement's going to be there when they retire anyhow. So it's a different world of recruiting people. But we just had at our Monday meeting retirement of 5 teachers, and we're losing, I believe it was 132 years of experience in those 5 teachers leaving the district. So it shows you that the longevity of this, the teaching staff and the teachers in Wisconsin Rapids has been good. And I feel that we have to be aggressive in recruiting people, and that's one of the functions that we have with a good human resources department, and part of our reputation of being a good educational place and a good working experience has been working in our favor.
Thank you. Katie Bielski-Medina.
Yeah, first and foremost, I think that where we've got a problem now is the respect for our teachers. Larry mentioned Act 10. And what happened with that, I don't really believe it was all about the money. For some people it was, but I don't believe people go into teaching because they believe they're going to get rich and famous by doing that. People who decide to become teachers do it because they love the students, they love the job. And I really believe that in the process of creating Act 10, somehow, somewhere along the way, our teachers became very disrespected. And I think that what we need to do as a community is to highlight the amazing things that our teachers do for our students on a daily basis. We need to be able to show the people that this isn't some kind of a gravy train. Teaching is a hard work, and they're not getting paid nearly what they should be getting for doing that. I don't think any of the teachers are doing it, like I said, for money, but if we could just show them some respect, and if we could teach our kids to respect their teachers, rather than always making the teachers the bad guy here, that would go a long way. I think the second thing that we could do is to make things in our community that are attractive to teachers, because what teachers want is what everybody wants. They want a good, safe community with opportunities for their children to grow up just like we all want for our children. And so the first thing is we need to show respect, teach respect about and to our teachers, and improve our community so that we have a variety of offerings for people who may be interested to come here as teachers.
Thank you. Troy Bier.
I believe that Act 10 did demoralize our educators to a great degree, which not only impacted them, but impacted our students and our classrooms as well. I do believe here in our community, we do have a good district. We do have good incentives for our educators. I do believe that we show value to them, which is extremely important in the classroom. For students, for parents, for teachers, we need to value them. Because when we value them, that's really when our kids have a beneficial impact.
Thank you. Our next question will be posed to John Benbow Jr. first. Regarding school safety, what are the major safety issues facing the Rapids schools, and what can you do as a school board member to address these issues?
Well, as a school board member, we can just hope and continue to advocate to the legislature to do something about it. There are some positive things, is that the legislator is taking up a bill that was provided, or not a bill, but a request from Tony Evers, our state superintendent, to help school districts in this, for funding of safety and multiple steps on how to handle this. As far as for our district itself, every one of our buildings has a lock, or all the doors are locked, and you have access through a push-button intercom system. It's hard to believe, because when I went to school, every door was open. You could walk in and out of every door and that type of thing. But the way society has changed, it just doesn't happen that way anymore. As far as we do have resource officers and police liaison officers in some of our buildings, but they're not there all the time. It's one of those things that we can practice. We have, the school district has many policies in place for safety, many practices for safety. But the bottom line is you never know how anybody can react until something actually happens. And that, unfortunately, we can just hope that never happens in one of our schools.
Thank you. Katie Bielski-Medina.
Yeah, I wish I had a really good answer for this, and the more I think about it, the more questions we have. What's different? When I was in school, like John said, we didn't have to worry about this kind of thing, and maybe we should have worried about it, but we didn't worry about it, and we didn't have these horrible shootings going on that have been happening around our country. I think our school district has done just about everything we can. Like John said, we've got all of these things in place that are, the practices and the security. And unfortunately, when these bad things happen, there's just the 20/20 hindsight maybe, but even then, it's like, what more could we have done? The more savvy we get with trying to prevent these horrible things from happening, the more savvy the criminals or these people get in counteracting whatever we have done to try to prevent these things from happening. So I wish there were an easy answer, and I think, again, all we can do is educate our students, our teachers, our families, the parents. We, as a community, not just as a school community, but just as a community in general, need to teach our children and work with each other to show respect and appreciate differences and appreciate others, and that's the only way we're going to do this. The more we do, the more money we put into security and everything, the more the people who want to have these bad things happen, the more they're going to work to do that. So I believe it's all about respect and education.
Thank you. The question is, I just realized I probably should be repeating it a little bit for those at home. What are the major safety issues facing our schools, and what can you do as a school board member to address these issues? Troy Bier.
Well, security measures are extremely important, and parents, teachers, and students, they all need to feel safe during the day. And I believe that the Rapids District, we do a good job. We have good measures in place to obtain secure measures. But I believe we can achieve stronger security through technology. Right now, we do have alerts that spread awareness of dangerous situations in our schools, and we have a solid foundation on that. I believe that in the Rapids schools have a good visitor management system in terms of entry into our schools and keeping a log in a database. I also believe that we could look at enhanced surveillance, because I believe if there's cameras vastly placed all over our schools, all over our hallways, in terms of gathering spots, I believe that could deter some threats. Also, as I mentioned before, the texts and desktop alerts are good measures in place and vital in this day and age in terms of addressing security. Now, I think this might not be popular with the students, but I think this raises an important question, to question ending open campus lunches, because I think that would help us limit unrestricted access and activity in our schools, and during the day that would eliminate a lot of coming and going. Also, I think we can always have security upgrades in our classrooms, and I also believe that it's time for more frequent, if you will, security assessments of all facilities, as well as all of our school practices in that time. And I know John mentioned this earlier, but Tony Evers, Department of Public Instruction leader, he has a good plan for school safety. And his plan calls for investing to purchase school safety equipment, compensate safety officers, or pay for other measures. So his plan really leaves it up to the local level. And I think that these are conversations that we need to be having, because what might work best for Rapids might not be the case for Nakusa. I think these are conversations we need to have at the local level.
Thank you. Larry Davis.
Other than those things that have been mentioned already, at the school board convention in Milwaukee, I went to a session where they talked about the Antigo shooting at a prom that they had experienced about a year before. And one of the suggestions they made there was to make sure that the communication between the school and the police department is clean and up to date and both work in that emergency situation. Because they talked about the shooting occurred at a prom on Saturday, and some of the staff people came to help, and they said, "You can't get in." I said, "Well, I'm here to help, and I want to get in," but they didn't think about that ahead of time, and so they had problems with it. One of the other suggestions that I thought would be helpful is if you can get police there quickly, it means a lot. And they suggested that they, in Antigo, that they pay the overtime pay for police departments, especially when there's a community event like a big rivalry football game. And then they have police right there so they can respond immediately rather than taking however long time it gets to them. Some things you just can't figure out in those emergency situations. But we really, I think, are doing a good job of planning ahead, thinking about those, making sure that we're on the same communication with our police department. And lastly, if we could get students to think about, when they hear those things that are dangerous, to report them to someone. In our high school, it's 400 or 500 kids per counselor, so it's pretty hard to have that, for the counselor to do everything. That's it.
Thank you. Our next question also regards the question of school safety. Very specific. Do you believe teachers should be armed? And we will start with Katie Bielski-Medina.
I know this is a highly controversial question. My answer is no. I don't believe our teachers should be armed. I really believe that that's not the answer. We are asking our teachers to do so much on a daily basis. Now we want to put them in charge of security. I mean, our students, our teachers, they're there to teach. They're there to educate our children. They're being asked to work half the time. It's more social work kinds of things. They're helping students who don't have their lunches or don't have clothes, and they're trying to get them the services they need. And besides all of the mandated, standardized testing that they have to do, just to add one more thing for them to worry about. Maybe some teachers wouldn't worry about it. Maybe some teachers think they would feel better if they had that opportunity. But I just feel that it's very dangerous. It's a slippery slope. And there are too many, like I said, the bad guys, they're pretty witty and they can figure things out. And if they know who is armed and if they feel that they can unarm them, it's just another challenge for our teachers that I don't feel that they should have to worry about on a regular basis.
Thank you. Troy Bier.
Now this, like Katie mentioned, this is a very resounding issue, but I think the answer is a resounding no. I think the costs, just looking at the surface on it, the costs outweigh the benefits. I don't think the majority of teachers want this, nor would they feel comfortable with this. And quite blatantly, it's not their job. They have enough on their plate to educate our students, so arming teachers, I think, is a terrible idea. And I also think it creates a dangerous environment, a dangerous atmosphere in the classroom.
Thank you. Larry Davis.
I agree. More guns means more opportunities for guns to be used. I keep picturing this fourth grade teacher with a holster when she's bending down to help a student, and it just doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem that role is what a teacher wants to be seen as. You want to be trusted. You want to be open, not have a gun at your side. Not what I'd want to do.
John Benbow Jr.
This is pretty simple, no. The stress level already of teachers is almost to the roof. I mean, we've had some reports and with mental health, and it's not just students, it's also teachers. And there is a lot of stress in the teaching profession, and teachers originally got into teach because they love to teach children. However, today, they're not teachers as much as they are administrators. So to heap one more thing on like that, the responsibility of carrying a handgun. But the bigger issue is just the logistics of now, okay, there's a shooter in the school, then there's the panic of law enforcement coming in and trying to figure out who's the shooter when you have teachers with guns, which they don't know who they are. So now you'll have other players involved with weapons, of which law enforcement is not sure if they're the victim or if they're the crook. So all it can do is introduce more problems and worsen the situation, because now you have bullets maybe flying in multiple directions. So who's going to be safe in that situation? So the easy answer is no. It makes no sense to do that. That's why we have law enforcement, and they get trained multiple hours to do this type of job. Let the professionals do what they do best, and let our teachers do what they do best, and that's teach our kids.
Thank you. Our next question goes to Troy Bier first. Sorry about that. Troy Bier. What ideas do you have for strengthening early childhood education in Wisconsin Rapids so that all children are ready to learn when they begin 4-year-old or 5-year-old kindergarten?
We absolutely have to strengthen early childhood education, because the skills that students learn in their time here, let's face it, some of them might not go on to college. So start at an early age, build skill sets that they need, and whether or not students go on, by the time that they graduate, they need to have the skill set and they need to have the mentality to be able to function as out in society if they don't go on to school. So I think, quite frankly, early childhood education is something we need to strengthen. It's something we need to grow, because the benefits of this, the students reap the benefits of this.
Thank you. Larry Davis.
All of the studies show that early childhood experiences in education are a good investment. There's no doubt about that. We do a good job of that, and we've done it for a long time. It's particularly helpful when the students are behind. I'm one of those who don't want these young kids to get grades when they're 5 or 6 or 7 years old. Let them think they're great at everything until they have to find out that there are some things they're not so good at, because you don't want that negative experience to come early. Early childhood education and Head Start felt that if they would get a $4 payback for every dollar they spent in Head Start. So reading, if you're not ready to read, you have to get them ready and prepare them, get them comfortable in school, get them excited about school. That's the time to do it, and I'm glad that we're doing what we should be doing.
Thank you. John Benbow.
This is a tough question. I get, absolutely all for it, but the reality is that, I mean, we offer 4K and we offer the kindergarten, and there's plenty of daycare opportunities, but when you're talking about early childhood education, it isn't free. I mean, the schools, we have a hard enough time to fund K through 5 or K through 12, much less now 4K through 12. To try to go beyond that, it's getting tough for the school districts to fund and provide education for the whole students of our district. A lot of that is family issues. There's a lot of single parent households. There's a lot of free and reduced in poverty in our area. So resources at home where a lot of this early childhood education begins isn't always available to these people, as well as having the money to buy computer programs or work with computers or do some of that stuff. So absolutely, if we can do it, it would be great. If we can do it for every kid, it would be great. But the reality is that the families don't always have that opportunity and the funds to provide that opportunity for their children. So we have to do the best we can when we get them at 4K and in kindergarten to make up those gaps for those children that don't have that opportunity for early childhood education.
Thank you. The question is regarding ideas for strengthening early childhood education in Wisconsin Rapids. Katie Bielski-Medina.
Yes, and I truly believe that early childhood education begins at home. And we need to educate our parents and grandparents of our students to realize how important it is for them to sit and read a book with their child. I know a lot of parents realize that, but there are some people who just simply don't think about it and don't realize the importance of it. So I think rather than us trying to do more in the district with the students at a younger age, what we need to do is to educate the people that are spending more time with these students to understand the kids are going to learn if you're reading to them, if you're reading and you're following the words with your finger and they're watching the way the words are going on the page and that you're going from up to down, you know, the different things that kids have to learn when they're learning how to read. If we as parents do that with our kids on a regular basis, before they even start 4K, they're already going to be ahead. So my idea would be that we need to educate, again, the people, maybe not even just the parents and the grandparents who are taking care of these people, but the daycare providers, maybe some people who are not necessarily a preschool but providing daycare in their home, to educate them to realize how important it is to sit the kids down, you know, sometime each day and just read to them and get them an appreciation for books and literacy, and hoping that carries on to them so that when they get to the age that they're in the classroom, they're more ready to learn.
Thank you. Our next question will go to Larry Davis first. The district has not announced any immediate specific use for East Junior High School, the old Lincoln. Do you have any ideas for this historic building, and is holding River Cities there an effective option?
We've been thinking about that, and there are lots of different alternatives when the opportunity presents itself. My own picture that keeps coming back to me for what it's worth is that we need a place to exercise, a place where it's relatively inexpensive, where there's just places to do those kinds of things that make us more fit. And wouldn't that be nice if the place where I did those exercises, people in the community could continue to do them. Other than that, there would be perhaps an opportunity to move the alternative school from where it's at into that school. It's good to keep the central office there so that those things are located in an area that's convenient and there for people. Other than that, I haven't thought that much about it.
Thank you. John Benbow.
Well, the nice thing about it is that we don't have to rush to make a decision. We are in a transition of moving our 9th graders to the high school in the next school year, the 2018-19 school year. We also are having our junior high becoming a 6th, 7th, and 8th grade junior high, and we have the addition going on at the Rams building. There are different thoughts of what to do with it. One of the last things I'd want to see it become is apartments. It's a beautiful school building, it's a beautiful education center. I guess I'm a little biased. I'm the last graduating class out of that building as far as before they moved to the new Lincoln. So that was a proud moment for me. And it's just an interesting thought, and there are many ideas of what we can do with it. We have virtual programs, we have River Cities. I mean, we have some issues with the Children's Choice building as far as the fact that it doesn't have sewer and it does have some water issues. So there's certain opportunities available for that building. However, we don't have to rush in and just make a decision this year. We can kind of sit back and wait and see how the transition moves, and if there are any needs or any extra needs we might need during the transition of the 9th grade to the high school and that type of thing. So for the immediate future, I don't think we've had a specific discussion on what we're going to do with it, other than the fact that we have the luxury of holding on and at least waiting to see what we can do with it and not rushing to a decision that we might regret.
Thank you. The question is regarding the use of East Junior High School, the old Lincoln High School building. Katie Bielski-Medina.
Yeah, we have talked about some possibilities, and we realized that maybe moving the alternative high school there is, with modifications and with some changes, yeah, we could probably do that, and it'd be a good location for them. We wouldn't need the whole school for that, so we're still looking at other ideas and other opportunities. As John said, we're not going to rush into anything. We're really open to lots of ideas, and we're frankly hoping that people will come forward with some great idea that we all look at and say, oh yeah, that's great, that's a wonderful idea. We don't have that yet, and we have had a lot of ideas tossed around. It has been mentioned perhaps they would be bought by a private developer and turned into apartment buildings. I just want to tell people right now, that's not the case right now. I've had people come up to me and say, so when are they going to start turning those into apartments? We heard they're going to do that. And there's a lot of misinformation out there that I want people to know that nothing has been decided yet. This is something that we're still looking into. So if anybody out there has any great ideas of what we should or could do with that, we're sure open to hear from you. But right now, we're going to take our time and make the best decision we can about that.
Thank you. Troy Bier.
I think there are numerous options and aspects we can take on this decision. But as is mentioned, it's not a decision we have to rush. And the bottom line is these are conversations that we need to have at the local level. And I just hope that the decision we end up making is a decision that keeps it of value to the community. And like I said, we do have options on the table, and we're not rushing against a fast approaching deadline. So we need to have these conversations at the local level, and I hope the decision we make is one that really can strengthen our area.
Thank you. Our next question, we'll start with John Benbow. What do you anticipate to be the biggest challenges to our district and education in general in the next 4 years, and what are your solutions?
Funding. I mean, the number one challenge is always going to be funding until the budget system down in Madison gets fixed and the funding formula gets fixed. The other attack on public schools right now is, quite frankly, voucher schools. Voucher schools had a purpose when they first originally were started. The problem with voucher schools today is that they don't have to follow the same standards we have to follow. So they're literally getting funding from public sector and public dollars, but they don't have to do the testing. They don't have to follow the state mandates. They don't have to do a lot of the things that public schools have to do. 3 years ago, the funding for the vouchers in our district was $71,000. This year, the funding was $333,000. That's money that comes directly off of our budget. It's one of the things that the public doesn't know, that money comes directly from the money that we get so if we get $10 million from the state for our budget, that $333,000 comes off the top. The other part of it is if we don't, as a school district, levy for that, we then lose that money. So then the following year, not only would we lose the $1.5 million money that we lose in the normal budget cycle we've been losing, we'd also lose that $333,000.
Thank you. Katie Bielski-Medina.
Yep, I agree. It's the budget. The budget is what drives, unfortunately, a lot of what we do. We would love it to be all about the students and all about the kids getting, and it is about the kids getting the best education, but what we have to contend with when it comes to the budget dollars, the way we have to cut and cut and cut, and to be told that, oh look, we're going to give you, an increase in your money this year. It's like, well, you're giving us back a portion of what you've been taking and taking and taking. And as John said, the voucher schools, it's killing us. We are trying to fund several different school systems under the same budget that we used to fund just our public school system, and it's just not fair to our students and our teachers and our administrators and everybody who has to deal with this. Unfunded mandates, they take money away from us and they give it to the private schools, and then they tell us we have to do more testing, we have to do more with less every time. Give us new tests. Oh, by the way, you need special computers to get these tests, and so you're going to have to buy these computers, and you don't get money for that. So it's unfunded mandates and the cuts in the budget that are just really, really making it difficult for the public school system in Wisconsin.
Thank you. Troy Bier.
The most important issues that we'll face going forward, without a doubt, would be funding, safety and security, and overall quality of the education. And we do have a budget in place, but we can be smart about making the tough issues and making the tough calls going forward. In terms of funding our public schools, we have to keep funding in our public schools. When you look at the private schools, they don't have a school board in place that was elected by the voters to make decisions on their behalf. They don't have testing requirements, admissions requirements. Bottom line is there's no oversight. So we have to keep our dollars funding our public schools. In terms of safety and security, going forward, arming teachers isn't the answer. We need to increase our mental health staff and really make sure that parents, students, and teachers feel safe during the day. And we need to give them the resources that they need to do so. Also, we need to address overall quality of education. Because like I mentioned earlier, K through 12, some students might not go on. So they need to get the best quality education they can get during that time. And good quality education benefits the students, the teachers, the parents, our community, our workforce. And that would be the top three issues. We have to fight for funding of our public schools. We have to fight to keep our schools safe. And lastly, we need to make sure that the quality that our students are getting is grade A quality.
Thank you. Larry Davis.
Funding certainly is the primary and pressing need. You can't cut and cut and cut and not deteriorate your public schools. And I'm not against private schools, they do wonderful things. But when over 5,000 of the kids in Wisconsin Rapids are in a public school and 675 are in those other schools, why would we be increasing by 10, 50%, sometimes 100% each year to those voucher and private schools when we're not doing anything to increase what the public schools are getting? The other thing is that we have to support our staff and give them thanks for what they do and appreciate what they do. If we don't, they're going to get tired, and when they get tired, they don't do as well. People have said it here tonight a lot. It's no easy job in the classroom. If you don't think so, this weekend, bring about 15 5-year-olds over to your place. Why don't you do that, sir? And see how you feel.
I'll bring you
about
some
that.
cheese.
I'll come over and help. If we did those kinds of things, we would understand the struggles that teachers have. And they deserve respect, they deserve adequate compensation. And the public schools where everybody comes, no matter what they look like or how they're disabled, we provide that. That's democracy in action, and that's where people get lifted up, and that's what we want to keep.
Thank you. This is a related question, but it was submitted as a standalone, so take as much time or as little time. The question is about school choice. We'll start with Katie Bielski-Medina. What is your position on school choice, vouchers, and tax money to private charter schools?
Well, personally, I believe that the private schools have their place in our society, and I believe that the people who appreciate and want their children to get that private school education should be willing to pay for that private education or do what they need to get that private education for their students. We are a public school system, and for us to use public dollars to pay for private education, to me just seems like we're heading in the wrong direction. The privatization of our schools is not what our education system is about. And so I understand that it may be different in the bigger metropolis, in the bigger areas. In Wisconsin Rapids, I don't think the vouchers are necessarily guaranteeing our students a better education, because I firmly believe that our public schools are just as good as any of the private schools around here. And so if it's a parent's prerogative to send their children to a private school, I totally encourage that, and if that's what they want to do, I totally support that. But I don't believe that we, as the public, should be paying for that if that's their choice.
Thank you. Troy Bier.
Now, I want to start by saying I'm not against private schools. I've had public and private education under my belt in the past. But in terms of the funding itself, we need to keep the funding in our public schools. That is essential. And like I mentioned earlier, it's a lack of oversight on behalf of the private schools. They don't have a democratically elected school board making decisions for them. They have different, or lack thereof, testing admission requirements in the private school. And overall, there's no oversight. So it's a different set of rules that the public schools have to adhere to that the private schools don't. So I'm not against private education. I just think in terms of funding, we need to keep our dollars in our public schools.
Thank you. Larry Davis.
More of the same. Same as Troy was saying. We need to support where the students are in the community, not where just a few of the students are. And that support should continue, and not just when the election comes, let's give a little more money this year. That's not pro-education. That's political stuff. Betsy DeVos, Secretary of Education, cut us over $100,000 in our Title I funds this last year. 10% decrease. Those are the things that help struggling students to read better. That's the kind of thing that helps a school district. Where did the money go? She has a fund. She's going to give it to private and choice schools. In her own state of Michigan, this is what happens when you do that. When you do for-profit and pro-choice things like that. Michigan was about in the middle with their students until Betsy DeVos started her work in Michigan. She started a whole system of doing private voucher schools, and in 10 years they went from the middle, and this is in all the measurements of student success, and they went down near the bottom. Now, is that what we want for Wisconsin? It's not going to happen right away. It's not going to happen immediately. But when you do those kinds of things, that's the direction that you take. All the stuff in Milwaukee where they had choice, none of those over a 5-year period raised the score of the students. Public schools where that happens, and you need to support them.
Thank you. John Benbow Jr.
I just stated the last question. I'm against the voucher system as it's written right now. I'm not against private schools. I'm not against any of the religious schools. They all have their place, and quite frankly, if parents want that choice, they can pay for that choice. The issue at hand with the voucher program is that if you are, and the biggest problem any public educator has about it, if you're going to give them our public money, then they must follow the same rules and mandates, federally and state mandates, that we do. That means open records. That means if we want to see your finances, we want to see your money. I mean, a lot of that money went to immediate raises for teachers. Didn't go to the students, didn't go to increasing the value of the education. They just gave money to their teachers so that they could attract some teachers. It's a broken tool, and it's one of the things that we have an opportunity to fix in the election process, and we need to, as public supporters and advocates for public education, start looking at Just because you're Republican doesn't mean you need to vote Republican. Just because you're Democrat, you don't vote Democrat. You vote for the person and their values of education and public education. And that's what we need to do, is vote for the people that are going to support public education and make Wisconsin the leader in education again, rather than the followers.
Thank you. Thank you to our audience for our questions. This is our final question for the evening. It will go to Troy Bier first. Two parts here. Do you feel our current curriculum and standards reflect best practice according to child development? And do you feel the school board has a voice to ensure curriculum does reflect appropriate child development?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a good question. I think right now in our district, we do have good measures, and we're tackling those issues properly. And in terms of the second part, I think our school board is leading the charge and really fighting hard to make sure that we can give the best quality education that we can give. And like I mentioned earlier, the reason I decided to run for the school board isn't because of any vendetta or ill will against any one of the candidates. I think it's a good board, and I think everybody on there really honestly believes that if you're running for the school board, you should want to fight for funding of our public schools. And I hope I tackled both parts of that, but to answer the question, I think it's a solid board right now, and I also think that we're doing and putting good measures in place to make it a good district and a good place to live.
Thank you. Larry Davis.
We constantly study and ask ourselves, is what we're doing what students need? Is it best practice? Are we doing the best that we can? We ask each other, watch each other to see if we're doing a good job and try and improve ourselves continually. I think it's our practice in this district to get better every year, to do a better job. We do it as a team. One of the disappointments that I had when I first got on the board, I talked to the superintendent and I said, when you're negotiating, it looks to me like you're scratching each other's eyes out. And then at the end of the year, you collapse and you say, well, let's do that again next year and you'll negotiate a better agreement. And I said to Tom Link, there's got to be a better way to do this. And Tom found a better way. It's consensus bargaining, where both sides, with respect, educate each other on the challenges. And we pushed the staff, the teachers in that negotiation process with those things that we felt they could help us with. And we came up with something that not only did we both feel we had won, but we did it for a 3-year term. And now we can't negotiate anything. The only thing you could negotiate, the only thing that the teachers organization and the other people have to say is, well, do we get the cost of living or not? That's it. Well, that's not good. That's not giving respect to the staff when you can't really let them in on the things that they can help us out with.
Thank you. John Benbow Jr.
Actually, I feel this is a softball question because we have a very good department with our curriculum and the setup that we have in our district. Matter of fact, and it's sad that a lot of people don't know, the State Department of Education comes to our school district multiple times using looking for and asking about how we've done some of our curriculum development and planning and programming in our district. One of the things as a school board member is that we set policy. And the other thing we do is that we want to hire quality people to do these positions. Most of these people were here before I got on the school board. And the amazing people we have working here between our staff, our teachers, and our administrators are all part of the picture. I mean, we have the curriculum. They started with build your own curriculum, and now we're into the different curriculum mapping, I believe it's called. And we have committees that do curriculum in purchasing of materials, and the committees work with the public. They have the public involved. They have open houses to look at materials. It's very open and transparent to the public. Unfortunately, most of the public doesn't show up for it, but we have it in place to do that. It's one of the great things and one of the proud things of being a member of this district and a board member of this school district. It's fun to go to convention because people ask you questions about why you're doing this, how you do this, and people know around the state the quality of people we have in our educators and in our administrative team.
Thank you. Katie Bielski-Medina.
Yes, I believe that our curriculum is awesome. We as a board are not micromanaging what goes on, but our Director of Curriculum, Kathy Stevenson, has done an amazing job with our curriculum committees, and I'm always so excited when we have these curriculum committees. Recently we had the music teachers come in and talk to us about their curriculum, and they're so enthusiastic and they're so passionate about what they do, and so every area of curriculum has a committee that works on that specific curriculum, and they're always looking to do the best for the students. You can tell when they come in and present to us what they're thinking about, what they're doing, what they're working on, their passion, their enthusiasm, and their number one goal is always, okay, so this is what's going to be best for the students, and that's always what they have in mind, and you can tell that. And so if you ever have an opportunity to come to one of our board meetings, when one of the curriculum committee is presenting, it doesn't matter which committee, because everyone that we have seen have come in with such passion for their teaching, and the way they build their own curriculum, the product that they use to build their curriculum, they really get down into the nitty-gritty and look at what is best for our students. And we as a board are always happy to support these teachers and administrators and what they feel is best for the students, because they know better than we do. As I said, we don't want to micromanage them, but we really, really appreciate what they do in order to give our students the best they can.
Thank you. And thank you, candidates, and thank you for those of you in the studio audience for those questions. We will now move to closing statements, and we will have Larry Davis first.
Oh boy. It was 2 meetings ago. A little second grader teacher came in from Meade School, Kim Martin, and she sat down. She talked about a problem that they had at her school. She said, we went down to the lunchroom and there was bullying going on there. There was mean things happening there. And they came back to their classroom and they sat down and they said, what can we do? What can we do about this? And as I watched Kim and those students, I thought, she is fantastic. She's involving those kids thinking, what's the result of this? How can we do this without putting down the bully? How can we do it and be sensitive? Give a little love was the theme. And they used the Gandhi statement, be the change you would like to see in the world at the beginning of their show. They've seen that 1,351 times on YouTube. They're famous people now. When I watched her, all the things that I would want a teacher to do, she was doing. She wasn't doing the talking. She was letting the kids organize this in their mind, think about it. I see that so many times here in Wisconsin Rapids. We are lucky to have this kind of staff, and we need to treat them right. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. John Benbow Jr.
I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for this opportunity, Wisconsin Rapids Community Media for this opportunity as well, and I just feel I'm not done giving back to my school district. I'm a proud Wisconsin Rapids citizen. I'm a proud former Lincoln alumni, and I'm a proud school board member. I love what I'm doing on the school board. I love giving back to our kids. I working with the kids, like Clary said, is the greatest thing you can do. And if you come to one of our, I wish they would film our educational services meeting, because the dynamic things that happen in that meeting with our teachers, our staff, and kids come in, it's just amazing. It amazes me every time I sit in a school board meeting and we have these presentations by our teachers and our kids. One of the things I'd love to do is I want to continue to give back to my community. I don't feel that I'm done for this. I want to continue to advocate for my students or my kids who are graduating now. I love my children. I love the kids of this district, and I'd like to do and continue that advocacy for all of our children in this district. I ask for your vote on April 3rd. I'd say vote and make a difference in a child's life. Thank you.
Thank you. Katie Bielski-Medina.
Yes, thank you. And I just want to say how happy I am to be a member of the Wisconsin Rapids community. We have a really strong school board here, and I don't see that changing no matter what the results of the election are. We've got good candidates. We've got people who care about our students, people who care about our teachers, people who care about our community. We all just want to make our community stronger, and that, in our case, is to help our schools become stronger. So I would encourage everybody to get out there and vote. It's an important decision, because as a school board, we do make important decisions for our entire community, and everybody is affected. Whether or not you have children in our schools, you are affected by the decisions we make here on the school board. So make sure that you get out and vote, and look forward to having some more opportunities to talk with the public and to continue to work with the school board. Thank you.
Thank you. Troy Bier.
Over the course of the next 3 years, whoever wins the election next April, we're going to have some tough decisions to make. And these are decisions that we need to make at the local level, obviously, because they will impact our everyday life. And I believe that the board collectively, we can move forward together. I believe the board has a solid foundation, and whoever does win in April, I believe we want to keep fighting for public schools and fighting for the interests of our students. I believe that we should fight for policies that will put our children first and put our district first. I support programs and practices that take pride in the diversity of our community, and if elected, I believe that our community should be a more inclusive place that makes us proud to call home. We need to fight harder, and just to name a few, we need to fight harder for anti-bullying policies, nutritious meals, safe bus rides, appropriate class sizes are a fundamental, early development programs. I believe that we need more internships to strengthen our future leaders. I believe that we do have a solid foundation, but we can always build a stronger relationship with our local law enforcement in case a tragedy does hit close to home. We need to expand, not cut extracurricular activities. We need to be united and unified with the goal of putting students first. If elected, this will be my top priority. And I will fight for the district, for the students, and for the needs of teachers. Because when we fight for all of them, everybody gets ahead, including the community. I ask for your vote, and I ask for your support at the polls on Tuesday, April 3rd, because I truly believe that together we can accomplish more. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to our candidates again. 4 candidates for Wisconsin Rapids School Board, running for 3 positions on the April 3rd general election ballot. And they were John Benbow Jr., Katie Bielski-Medina, Troy Bier, and Larry Davis. Thank you very much. Please join us tomorrow, Wednesday, March 14th, for our candidate forum, which will involve the District 2 Alderman, Wisconsin Rapids Mayor, and candidates for Wisconsin Rapids City Clerk. Thursday, March 15th, we will be featuring the Nakusa School Board at 6 p.m. I want to thank the Wisconsin Rapids Community Media staff and our league volunteers for helping with this forum tonight. And thank you for those of you viewing at home and in our studio audience. Don't forget to vote on April 3rd. Thank you.